What's up, NIO family? It's Rey-Jay back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's happening with NIO, Tesla, SPY, and the broader markets. I want to break down what's happening with the economic calendar moving forward as we have other factors out there and what's happening at least thus far, given some big news coming out for tomorrow for the stock market. Just know that I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I'm saying as financial advice. So as far as NIO is going, as you guys can tell, we formed this temporary bottom at 7.3 and we've been bouncing since. I told everyone yesterday I did think NIO might be dipping a bit more towards this lower trend line to come down to fill this gap. And then we would see if we bounce off that or not. I was a little bit worried about that, but we got some good news today and we are trying to rebound off an inverse head and shoulders, which is a good sign. But for tomorrow, we do have Jerome Powell giving a speech which could be affecting the markets. And as NIO is getting bought back up, we're showing lots of resilience and there is still potential to push back up to $8. The good news coming out is that despite the fact that their margins once again may have dipped during the second quarter, we're going to be looking for a big improvement in the overall sales data and the revenue, which could help to offset that once we get to Q3 earnings. There's been lots of optimism about that, and I think that's really helping NIO. And on top of this, Mizuho gave NIO a neutral rating compared to before. The price-risk ratio was dipping, now it's starting to bounce again, which shows that NIO is beginning to build strength again. And historically, Thursdays, although they're only green about 50% of the time, Fridays tend to be actually stronger as we're green about 53% of the time. Finally, I just want to add on that tomorrow is going to be Thursday, October 9th. We have the big guy, Jerome Powell, giving a speech tomorrow morning at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Then we have a bunch of Fed speakers as the time goes on. Initial jobless claims will not be coming out due to the government shutdown, which is still continuing, unfortunately. And besides that, 8:30 a.m. is when we have Jerome Powell giving some kind of speech. Now, when he gives this speech, he's going to give us some insights about the FOMC minutes. Right now, the Fed is divided, and they are once again, they're a bit divided, but they are leaning towards more cuts, two more cuts at least for the year. Many others out there are once again pointing that direction, such as Myron from the Fed, who are worried that if we don't get more cuts, there's going to be negative economic policies. So the majority of Fed officials are kind of like leaning in that direction, despite the fact that there are fears of higher inflation that still exist. With the high inflation, the faltering jobs markets, it makes more sense for the Fed to be very patient. And there is some fear, but despite that, the market continues to rally. So with that being said, NIO has an inverse head and shoulders like pattern. I think that we're testing resistance at this 7.8 area, which is where we could consolidate for a bit. But then ultimately, as long as we don't do 7.67, we could still bounce and push for $8 as more upside looks very, very prevalent. On SPY, we're making higher highs and higher lows. Now, if we end up losing 672, we could return to 670, but we made a full V-shaped recovery move invalidating this bear flag-like pattern. So it depends on Jerome Powell's speech. As long as we hold 672, we could continue to push for 675 or above and remain bullish. Every time we're dipping, we're just getting bought back up, and we also broke all-time highs again today, so we're still favoring new highs on SPY. On the QQQ, it's the same thing. We broke all-time highs to 612. If that breaks, I would not rule out the possibility of essentially 614 to 615. If we end up losing the previous all-time high at 610, we could return to 608. But for now, we're still breaking out and we're still looking bullish. I could see this retest 610 then continue to bounce for 614. We still look bullish. There's no sign of us losing support. We had a bull flag forming on the IWM and we've invalidated this, forming a slanted inverse head and shoulders, which means that as long as we don't lose 245, we could be favoring 247 or above. For ES, we're looking bullish. We have 6,800 as our resistance. If that breaks, 6,820 is very possible. NQ is looking more bullish, favoring 25,400 as our potential target. There is upside potential. Bitcoin's on a bit of an uptrend, making higher lows. So long as we don't lose 122,000, we're going to be favoring 125,000. Tesla also has an inverse head and shoulders like pattern now. It depends on if we could get some kind of bounce here. We might dip towards like in the morning around this 433 area, but if we could bounce, as long as we hold that, we could be looking for a rebound attempt for like 440. Overall, we're just consolidating, not really doing much, so look for a retest of the lower 430s and we'll see if we bounce. Nvda, it's on an uptrend making higher lows, could retest 188s, then bounce and continue to push for 190. Looking at Aapl, we could be retesting 257, then we'll see if we bounce and break out for 259. Looking at AMD, we're more bullish, favoring 240 plus, nice breakout. Coinbase, as long as we don't lose 384, we're going to be favoring a push for 392 tomorrow. Amazon's holding support at 224. As long as we don't lose this, we came down to fill this gap and bounce. We're going to come down, then bounce. We could be looking for 227 plus very soon. Meta could also uptrend for essentially 720 plus. Google has resistance at 246. If that breaks, we're looking for 247. Microsoft is consolidating, then we could be looking for essentially 528. And then the VIX is also rejecting, making lower highs here, so it could be dumping even more. As you can tell, it's just making lower highs and lower lows, and that could also lead to more downside as the stock market looks more bullish. So with that being said, the market's bullish. We're breaking new all-time highs. NIO could retest 7.67 to 7.75, this range down here, and then we could be looking for a nice bounce. As we continue to push for the $8 target, we still look very bullish. We will see what the big guy Jerome Powell has to say tomorrow at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. But then, as of right now, the market looks optimistic, and we could be favoring new all-time highs. Thank you all so much for listening. Have a good rest of your guys' days, and peace out.